Hey guys, this is Hemant from Edureka. Today in this session we are going to discuss about the service AWS CloudFormation. So without wasting any more time, let's move on to today's agenda. So we'll start today's session by discussing why CloudFormation is actually needed in the first place. Once we're done with that, we'll move on to the what of what is CloudFormation actually. After that, we'll be discussing what things are needed to get started in the CloudFormation service. Now among those things you have a JSON document. So we'll be learning how to create a JSON document. So before that, we'll be seeing the structure of a JSON document. Once we learn the structure, we'll see how a JSON document actually looks like. So we'll see how a sample JSON document looks. And in the end, we'll be doing a demonstration. So in the demonstration, we'll be doing two demos. The first one will be a really simple one, and the other one will be a little advanced, right? So guys, this is our agenda for today. Are we clear with it? Let's move on to the first topic, that is why AWS CloudFormation. So why do we need CloudFormation? So for example, you have an application. We created an application, right? Now that application is actually dependent on a lot of AWS resources. Now if we were to deploy and manage all these resources separately, it will take up a lot of time of yours, right? So to reduce that time or to manage all these resources, what if I told you you have a service? Yes, you got that right. So you have a service called AWS CloudFormation. So using AWS CloudFormation, you can manage and create and provision all these resources at a single place. Now, this is what CloudFormation does. But now, what is CloudFormation exactly? So a CloudFormation is basically a service which helps you model and set up your AWS resources so that you can spend more time on your application rather than setting up and provisioning these resources, right? So basically it's a tool using which you can create your applications quickly. Also, you can create templates in AWS CloudFormation. Now how do you create templates? Basically you would be using the CloudFormation designer. You'd be putting in all the resources that are needed. You would be defining the dependencies of these resources, and then you'll be saving this design as a template, right? Now what will you do with this template? This template can be used to create as many copies as you want, right? Say for example you have a use case wherein you want your application in multiple regions for backup purposes, right? So if you want that, you won't be implementing or you won't be creating each and every resource one by one in each of the regions. What you can do is you will create it at one place in CloudFormation, have that template in your hand, and deploy that template in the other regions as well, right? So what will this do? So first of all, your replication will be very precise, right? So there won't be any changes in the copies that you have made. Second of all, you'll be doing that quickly because you don't have to do the process all over again. You just have to click a button and that template will be provisioned or will be launched in that region. So this is what AWS CloudFormation is all about. It makes your life simpler by handling all the creation and the provisioning part, right? So this is what is AWS CloudFormation. Now, how do we get started in CloudFormation? Since it's a very useful service, how can you as a user use this service? So let's move on. So for using the CloudFormation service, first of all, you need a JSON script. Now, why do you need a JSON script? Because you'd be creating a template, right, in the CloudFormation designer. You'd be using the drag and drop option and filling in the AWS resources, right? Now, when you'll be doing that in the backend, it'll actually be creating a JSON script. Now, what you can do as a user is if you're good in JSON, you can create your own JSON script. Otherwise, you can use the CloudFormation designer to create a template. Now, for creating a template, like I said, you need a JSON script. Now, what is a JSON script then? So a JSON script is basically a JavaScript object notation file, which is an open standard format. That means it is human readable. So you can read it as well as the computer. So if you don't need the programming knowledge for this, what you as a user would be doing is you would be designing your template in the CloudFormation designer, and that will automatically create a JSON script. You can do it the other side as well. Like I said, you can create your own JSON script and feed it in the CloudFormation designer. So this is how CloudFormation works. This is how you'll be using AWS CloudFormation. But then how can you learn the JSON script? So it's very easy. So basically you have to follow a structure in the JSON document. What is this structure? So that structure is like this. You'll be creating the following fields. So the first field will be the AWS template format version. So this will basically contain version of your template. Next up is the description. So description is a text only file or is a text only field wherein you'll be describing your template in words, right? So if I'm a user and I want to know what your JSON does, without reading your JSON script from beginning to end, I can read the description in simple English and understand what your JSON script will do, right? Then you have the metadata. So metadata will basically contain the properties of your template. Then you have the parameters. So any values that you have to pass to the template will be included in the parameters. Next comes mappings. So mappings would basically include the dependencies between your AWS resources. Then comes conditions. So conditions are basically the conditions that you'll be giving to your template when the stack will be created or while the stack is upgraded. So if your stack is being created or your stack is being upgraded, these conditions will be looked onto. Then comes outputs. So whatever outputs your template will provide or your creation or stack will provide will come in the outputs header. Then you have the resources field. So resources field will basically include all the AWS resources that you want to include in your infrastructure, right? Now, if you look carefully, you actually will be only dealing with the resources part, right? Because you will just be populating in the resources and creating the dependencies, right? So basically you'd be populating the resources part, and that is what it was all about, the resources part, right? Now, this is theory. Now, how does a JSON document actually look like, right? A JSON document looks something like this. So like I said, you'd be working on the resources field, right? So you'd be including the resources field, and in that, say so this JSON document is all about, if you had noticed, it's about S3, right? So you are basically including an S3 bucket, and in the type you'd be specifying the type of service that will be including this bucket, right? Like in this example, a JSON document doesn't know what service you're talking about. So you'd specify the name of the bucket, and inside the braces you'll be specifying which service. So over here you'll be specifying the S3 service. Don't worry, I'll be showing you guys this JSON document in a moment. But before that, you should understand how a JSON document is structured, and this is what we're doing right now. Now guys, this is the CloudFormation dashboard. Now you have to create a stack over here, right? And for the creation of a stack, you require a template. So first we'll design a template and then we'll create a stack. So this is my CloudFormation designer. Let's go back to our slide and see what we actually have to do. So this is our first demonstration. Herein we'll be creating a S3 bucket from CloudFormation. So we'll be designing a template around that for first, and then we'll be deploying this code, right? So let's do that. So let's go to our CloudFormation window now. So we have to create a S3 bucket. So we'll scroll down to the S3 service. So here is the S3 service. We'll click on the S3 service. We'll click on bucket and drag it over here, right? So this is our S3 bucket, guys. Now you can edit the name of the template over here. You can name it as Edureka CF. That means Edureka CloudFormation, right? So you specified that. Now this is your JSON code. Now you can compare the JSON code, guys. Let me make it a little bigger for you guys. Yeah, so this is the JSON code, guys. Now I didn't code this JSON script, right? I just dragged and dropped this bucket over here in CloudFormation, and it automatically generated the script. Comparing it with the code that we have in our presentation, let's see. So we have resources. Yes, we have resources. We have the name of your bucket part. So basically this is the name of your bucket, and then it's a type wherein you'll be specifying the S3 service. So you have type and you're specifying the S3 service over here. Alright, so if you want to change the name of the bucket, we can do that over here. Let's specify it as Edureka CF. Alright, so we are done. This is it, guys. This is all you have to do. So now for running this in CloudFormation, all you have to do is click on this icon, create stack. Now this will lead me to this page, which is the create stack page. Now it has automatically uploaded this template to the S3 bucket, and it has specified the URL here, right? You'll click on next. You'll specify the stack names. Let's specify it as Edureka CF, right? So you don't have to specify anything here. Let's click on next. Click on create. So you'll be seeing the events on this page. Let's refresh this. So it says create in progress, right? So my template is now being created into a stack, and that stack will have the AWS resource in it, which is the S3 bucket, right? So I think the time is enough. Let's refresh it and check if our stack has been created. So it's still in the creation phase. Let's wait. All right. So now it shows me that the create is complete. All right, guys. So let's go to our S3 service and check whether we have that bucket that our AWS CloudFormation created for us. So we'll go to the S3 service. And here it is, guys. So this is the bucket that we created. All right. So you can see the time, it's March 28th, 2017. Today is March 28th, 2017, and the time is 7:05 and the time is 7:07 here. All right. So this bucket has just been created by CloudFormation. So guys, like I said, it is very easy. It is easy to understand and to deploy as well. You basically just have to create a template, and that is it. AWS CloudFormation will do the rest for you. And the cool part is that you can replicate that template as many times as you want, right? So it will save you the time. Okay, this demonstration is done. So we have created an S3 bucket using CloudFormation. Let's see what our second demonstration is all about. So now we'll be creating an EC2 instance in which we'll be deploying the LAMP stack, which means in that EC2 instance, you'll be installing Linux, you'll be installing Apache, you'll be installing MySQL, and you'll be installing PHP as well, right? So let's see how will we do that. So for our second demonstration, we will again go back to the CloudFormation console. We'll click on create stack. Now we have to launch a LAMP stack. So a LAMP stack is basically a sample template in AWS, right? So we can select the sample template and we'll click on view or edit template in designer. So a LAMP stack is basically an EC2 instance with Linux, Apache, MySQL and PHP installed onto it, right? You can see in the designer that you have only specified an EC2 instance and you've attached a security group to it. So you need the security group obviously because you have to connect to this EC2 instance, right? Now a LAMP stack is basically a web server, remember? Now let's see the template for this LAMP stack. So we discussed the structure of a JSON document, if you guys remember. So the first part was the AWS template format version, then you have description, then you have parameters. So parameters, if you guys remember, it is basically the values that you'll be passing to the template, right? Now if you're creating a LAMP stack, you'll be needing the database name, you'd be needing the database password, you'd be needing a lot of things, right? If you're installing MySQL, you'd be needing the username, you'd be needing the password. So all of that you can feed in here in the parameters. So you can specify the key name. So if you are connecting to the EC2 instance through SSH connection, you'd be needing a key pair, right? So you'll be specifying the key pair here. Then you'll be specifying the DB name and the other details. Now how will that look when you'll be creating a stack? So let's do that. We'll click on this icon which will now create a stack automatically. So you'll be prompted on this page, click on next. Then you will reach this page wherein you are feeding the entry, right? So you would specify the stack name. So this is by default. So stack name, so we'll be specifying the stack name first. So let us stack name be LAMP demo. And then we move on to the parameters part. So whatever you specified in the JSON parameters field will be reflected over here. So we specified DB name over here. So it is asking me for the DB name. So let's give it as Edureka, and let's give the DB password as something. Can DB2 password, DB user as Edureka. Instance type as Steven.micro. Why Steven.micro? Because if you guys noticed in the template, we didn't specify a virtual private cloud. That is a VPC. Now all the instances which are launched these days, of which all the new instances which are there in EC2 are to be by default launched in a VPC. But since we are creating a JSON file and we didn't specify a VPC, you have to select an older version of your EC2 instance. So let it be T1. So T1 is an older version. It runs without a VPC as well. And then you have to specify a key name. The key name would basically be used to create a SSH connection to your instance, right? So our key pair was Edureka_A. We'll select that and we'll click on next. Now SSH location is basically your IP address if you want to specify. I don't want to specify it, so we'll click on next. You don't have to enter anything over here. Click on next, confirm, and click on create. now is happening in the background is it is picking up that JSON file and is creating a stack for us. Launch an EC2 instance. It will then install Linux onto that. It will then install Apache, MySQL, and then in the end a PHP installation. So what we will do, once it says that the creation is completed, we will go and check if everything has been installed on our server by creating an SSH connection, right? So let's wait until this stack is complete. Alright guys, so as you can see in the events that the creation is now complete. So let's check that if our installation has been correct. We'll go to the EC2 instance. Now this is our instance which has just been created. We can check that it's been created on March 28th, right? So today is 28th. Alright. So now let's connect to this instance. So for that we'll have to copy the IP address. This is the PuTTY software. For those of you who don't know how to connect to EC2, you'll be pasting your IP address here, right? And then you have this private file, right? So this is of the PEM extension, but the PuTTY software needs a PPK extension. So you have to convert this PEM file to PPK. That can be done using the PuTTY-Gen software. So this is the PuTTY-Gen software. So I'll be dragging this file here. Okay, it doesn't work. So we'll click on load, go to downloads, click on all files, select my PEM file, click on open, click on OK, and then click on save private key. So let's name it as Edureka _A, click on save. So my file has been saved. We'll close it, go back to our PuTTY software. You have entered the IP address here. You'll click on SSH, click on authentication, click on browse, go to your PPK file, click on open, and click on open here. So now you'll be connected to your SSH, through your SSH to your EC2 instance. So any Linux installation on your AWS infrastructure, the login will be ec2-user. Alright, so you're in. Let's see if we can connect to our MySQL installation. So MySQL-edge, so it is on localhost -p, port number 306, and then the user that we gave was Edureka, and the password was this. Okay guys, so we are in. So that means we successfully created the Edureka username which we specified in the JSON script. That works well. And then you specified, okay, we also specified that we need a database, right? So let's see if it is showing our databases or our databases have been created as well. Okay, so it has a database called Edureka, right? So the JSON script worked well. Now the thing here to notice is that how granularly you can configure your JSON file, right? First of all, it launched an EC2 instance, then it installed Linux, then it installed MySQL, it configured its settings, and inside MySQL it gave you a database, right? So this is awesome guys. So this gives you the whole control of AWS just through JSON script, right? And this is the power of CloudFormation. Now if you want this infrastructure or whatever you have created right now to be replicated again to some other instance, that can be done with a single click of a button, right? And it is actually pretty awesome because if you were to install this LAMP stack on a server or on AWS, again, if you launch a EC2 instance with a Linux OS, installing Apache, MySQL and PHP may take time. It actually takes time because you have to open the console, you have to open the terminal, you have to enter the commands, and depending on your internet speed, you will install all those packages. So this is neat. It does everything for you automatically, right? So guys, this is what CloudFormation was all about. So I'll close this session. Let me go back to my slide. All right. So guys, we are done with the LAMP stack demo. Okay guys, so this brings us to the end of our session. So thank you guys for attending today's session. So until then, see you guys. Have a nice day.